So I figured I'd give you guys a tour of what's going on around here. I haven't given you an overall picture of what we've done so far. Like I said, we've been out here for about 2 years and kind of working steady. You can see behind me there that that's the initial house we've been working on. Built a shed a few months ago. Obviously the pond and all that stuff is out here as well. So, the long-term plan is to build our main house up here. We'll see how that goes. Our initial plan was just to start building the main house, but we actually started doing some test walls down low there. And our test walls turned into the guest house. We weren't initially planning on building this house here, but because we wanted to kind of test out the rammed earth and see how it did, we got about 4 walls done and started discussing it, and we figured it'd probably be better to build a smaller house and get out here as quick as possible and get rid of the mortgage, and then be able to use that money and that cash to actually build our main house. So this will be where the master bedroom goes, and then it'll step down over in that area. There's kind of a step down, and then the main house will go down there. From up here you have good views of the mountain range, and then there's a military base actually about 5 miles that way. You can see it in the distance. And then I don't know if you see that house. It's actually my buddy's house over there. He started building around the same time we did. There's our solar panels. There are a lot of loose ends that I have to tie up that I'm sure anybody that does these types of projects know how it goes. That, you know, you'll start something and then sometimes your attention gets diverted or priorities change and you jump on something else. So there's a lot of loose ends that I gotta tie up everywhere, but we're making progress. So right now we're probably standing about 30 feet, maybe 40 feet above the initial, or above the house. So up here we have our water that feeds in from our solar well, which is, let me see if I can zoom into it for you. Alright, so our solar well, you can see the panel right there. So it's probably 350 feet away with a 30-foot elevation change. So that feeds this tank during the day, and then at night we get our pressure from the tank. So I want to say it's about 1.5 psi. No, wait. So down at the house we're probably in the probably 20 psi range. I'm just guessing there, which isn't very much, but what I did is I actually plumbed with 3/4 pipe everywhere. So all our faucets just have a higher flow rather than a low flow, high pressure. So that's how we get around not having great pressure at night. We have a little Airbnb that we do, and one of those trailers down there. The other trailer is actually my brother's, it's not mine, but he keeps it here because he lives in the city like an idiot. You can see down my junk corner over here, but I was actually working on a 1965 GMC restoration before I started the house project. So obviously that took a backseat to what we're doing here now. So one day I'll get back on that. The tractor, we actually ended up doing a tractor share with our neighbor, which has been amazing. And then when we actually bought the parcel, our other neighbor was moving and he had this tractor, so he actually sold it to us, which was a huge blessing because we would not have been able to do any of this without a tractor. So if there is one tool that you need for building rammed earth, I would say it's a tractor. And I would say the bigger the better, honestly. So it's a yard bucket on it, it's got the Gannon on it. My buddy that lives next door, who we did the tractor show with, he actually did a video on it. He's Bobo Homesteads, but he goes into kind of the Gannon and the benefit of that as opposed to like a backhoe. But we actually ended up finding a backhoe attachment, which I have a different video on. Down here we have our fruit trees that we planted, some last season and some this season. Right here's where we're planting the buffalo, or the Sundancer buffalo grass. And then hopefully, I haven't planted it yet, I just cleared this out the other day, but we'll actually come behind the tree and around the tree with it. These are our goats, and then this is our meat pig, and then 2 potbelly pigs. They're pretty funny. This little pig has quite the little personality. He will he'll stand his own up against the goats. He's not afraid, although he will squeal. Over here is the garden area. This is my wife's thing. I actually need to get in here and create some more beds for her. This is my experimental aquaponics area. The algae's going pretty good in the pond right now. I need to get some stuff to kill it, but right here I just threw some tomato plants and then actually jalapeno plant in there just to see how they would do. Not very technical or scientific, but they seem to be doing pretty good. I have 50 tilapia that are coming, let's say in a week or 2, and I'll be doing videos on that, but I'm gonna try and get a hydroponic system or aquaponic system going and see how we do with that. I'll go into more detail about like the walls and the house one of these days, but I will say that it was a learning process. You can see some areas like right here. This was actually, this was the second section we did, but these walls are at least 2 years old now. This is an area where I stopped one day and then came back and I ran this area above it. And I learned that if you can avoid that, then you should, because you'll get joints like this. Whereas this area up here is nice and, solid. Down at the joint, you have some material that dried out and then wasn't cleaned out properly from the form the next day before I started ramming, so that's kind of what's flaking out. This was actually the first wall section we did, the first test section. And then like this area, it's a long story, but it was blazing hot one day and I was rushing, and this is the result of that. This is front door that me and my son built. We actually used an old train trestle, beams, and built that. And these are like wall sections where I had it down pretty good at this point and kind of knew what was going on, so it was all a learning process. Anyway, it's a mess around here. I gotta get organized. Anyway, thanks for watching.